everyone. Welcome to Dealmaker Talks. This is a podcast of Dealmaker Magazine, the magazine of the National Alliance of Commercial Loan Brokers. I am your host, Rita Garwood. I'm editor-in-chief of Dealmaker, and joining me on the podcast today is Terry Luker. Terry is founder and CEO of Alternative Capital Solutions and Commercial Capital BIDCO. Terry, I'm excited to talk with you today. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Well, hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate your time today.
Yeah. So as you know, 2022 is coming to an end and a new year is on the horizon. What should brokers be planning for 2023, and what resources should they be planning to utilize in the new year?
Well, I think as we approach 2023, you would look at, I think most brokers are already aware that a lot of the lenders, a lot of the banks especially, are simply not lending. They all claim they still lend, but yet they're telling their teams, hey, we'll look at deals starting in the second quarter of 23. So I think right now brokers should be planning for and understanding that they're going to have to be creative in their funding sources, that they're going to have to find that secondary market. And I'm not talking about bad credit. I'm just talking about the secondary market, the non-bank lenders. And they're going to need to focus on those bank lenders, I believe, those non-bank lenders in 2023. Your banks that do come back and start lending a little bit, they're going to dip their toe in. They're not going to come back full force, like we've seen in the past. They're just going to dip their toe in here and there. And quite frankly, I said this to a client yesterday, right now, banks are wanting to loan money to people that don't need money. Okay. And that's typically not the small business owner. So it's going to be important that brokers for 2023 have that network of alternative lenders and really focus on growing and sustaining that network of non-bank lenders.
Can you give any tips for doing that, like for expanding your network of alternative lenders?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones out there is Prime Commercial Capital. I mean, John and his team, do a phenomenal job with that. If you're and we've been in our company, we've been a little lax in realizing everything they do. So I think getting a full spectrum of what Prime does would be beneficial to everybody, knowing what the client needs. And because here's what I try to explain to people right now when they say, oh my gosh, Terry, the rates are so high. And I tell them, fall in love with the property and just rent the rate. Understand that this is going to be a 12, 18, 24-month period where you're going to pay a little bit higher rate and then refinance it. So I just think you have to look at all options for financing and then present it to the client that, hey, this is a temporary fix. So even Commercial Capital BIDCO, our lending arm, it's a good fit for a lot of deals that normally we wouldn't see, because those deals we would be doing SBA, or those deals we would be, doing through a bank lender and that type of thing. But right now, SBA's rates are so high, they're not far off of what we charge, for our rates. So I think you just got to be creative, and you got to understand this is temporary. So Prime Commercial Capital, our Commercial Capital BIDCO, us, there's just a lot of good secondary lenders out there, and understand you may not get the permanent fix that you're looking for with these lenders, but you can bridge that gap until we get back to a regular lending cycle. And it's going to come, because the economy has to have banks and lenders lending money to grow the economy. So it'll happen.
That's great advice. Like, this is temporary and you can get another rate down the line. I love that. I know we did that with our house. Never think about that in a commercial sense, but it's so true.
Yeah, it is. So buy the house and fall in love with the house, but then just rent the rate. That's what you guys are doing. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you created a new resource for brokers fairly recently. It's called the Commercial Broker Playbook. Can you share more about why you created that?
I'd love to. We get, and this is no disrespect, we all started where every new broker is starting. Mine happened in September of 13. I went to school in December of 13. And so I started out not knowing anything. And luckily I was blessed to meet a gentleman by the name of Mike, who worked for Value Express, Mike Sneeden, and he became a mentor to me. And so it wasn't just CMBS deals that I would call him about. I could talk to him about an SBA deal. I could talk to him about a bank deal. Matter of fact, he funded a deal through his what was Country Bank at the time in New York. And then I did a deal for them as well because of the relationship we built. So my point is, everybody starts out, brand new. And so what we were doing is, and we still have this today, we get brokers that call us throughout the day. We'll have 5 to 10 calls a day come into our company. And the broker just simply hasn't had enough training and hasn't had enough experience to know what to do with the deal. And so that's what the commercial broker playbook was built for, is to show them, that you have to be creative, to give them examples of deals that we did, and let them see how we structured those deals. And then, we also teach about 7A. We have modules in there about sales and how to be an effective salesperson, which is basically learning how to listen. And most of us great salespeople struggle with the trait of listening, but when we really get great, we understand how to listen. So we built Commercial Broker Playbook to assist those brokers to get them some real life, real deal experience out there. So that's why we built it.
It's cool. So you talked about modules. Can you talk about like the experience that a broker would have going through the commercial broker playbook? Is it something where you have to do it in order, or can you jump in and pick and choose what you wanted to do, or what is it like?
No, they can actually pick and choose what they want to do. I mean, my preference, I'll tell you, when we onboard a new staff member with our company, they have to go through the commercial broker playbook, all the videos, all the training, everything, because we just think it's that important. But I think if you start at module 1 and go through it, it's an easier run for you. But let's say that, for example, you're working on an SBA 7A deal and you weren't sure exactly how to structure it or how to do it or all that. We have a module on 7A. So you could just click on that module, walk through it that way, and then that'll give you some knowledge to help you, complete your 7A deal. I just think that any resource we can give the brokers that helps them get better, is what we're trying to accomplish. So you could go, my recommendation is start with the first one, go through the whole thing, but then keep your video library so that if you have a 7A and you just want to refresh, you can click on and do it. If you've got a bridge loan and you're not sure how the mechanics of it should be, you can click on that module and hear how it should be. So.
That's great. So is there a specific type of broker? I know you mentioned SBA loans and bridge loans. Any specific type of broker that would reap the most benefit from going through the playbook?
I think someone that's serious about a career, someone that, understands that it's not easy. I get calls all the time with people that tell me that they're going to start in this industry, but they're just going to do it temporarily, maybe on the weekends or something like that. And all I can say to them, and I say this, is that I could not be successful doing that. Part of it's my personality. I've got to be all in if I'm going to do something and commit to something. And then the other part of it is I just think it's time and it's learning and it's setting in front of clients. I said this in our staff meeting yesterday. Sales is really just about math. If you think about the salesman at a car dealership, he needs to know how many ups he needs to take to sell a car, how many demo drives he needs to do to sell a car, how many presentations he needs to do to sell a car, and then how many turns to finance he needs to do to sell a car. It's no different in our industry. Ours is just a little different. How many clients do I need to sit in front of to get a quality deal to sell and finance and close that deal? So it's still about math and it's still about numbers. So we're looking for that broker that's not looking for a quick fix, not looking for a quick buck. There are deals out there that like that. I know there's a young man in Atlanta that I think the world of, and he got a pretty quick start and he's done really, really well. He's the exception, not the rule, and you just have to understand that this is a new profession. To you, if you're getting started, and it takes time to learn what you're doing. So we want that broker that's willing to listen, that's willing to take constructive feedback. And I don't want to say criticism, but constructive feedback, and willing to learn. One of the things that I still have, and I know we're on podcast and you can't see it, Rita, you can see it. I still have my playbook. I'm 9 years in now, okay, and I still have my playbook with all of my lenders and what their highs and lows are, what they like and what they don't like. It's my Bible, and I keep it. I don't know if you noticed it, Rita, but I keep it right here at the bottom of my feet, right here by my desk, so I can pick it up and use it at any point in time. Because I think that's what you have to learn as a broker, that your lending relationships, that's your lifelines, that's your blood, And I've talked to a chief credit officer on a Saturday morning, and I've talked to that same chief credit officer at 9 o'clock at night, because I have that relationship, with that bank. And it's the same thing with some of our other banks that we have. So we're looking for the broker that's willing to really absorb it all and really try to learn it. We're not looking for the one that already knows it all.
So a lot of our listeners and readers have gone through the CCTG training program. Do you think this would complement that?
Yeah, I can tell you that we have structured that program as a complement to Commercial Capital Training Group. And I'm not, listen, I'm not on their bandwagon, but I am. I mean, I love those guys. I've been, I went through the school 9 years ago, and I still have an unbelievable relationship with that whole team, with everybody on that team. I can pick up the phone. I can text Chris. He'll text me back. I mean, it's just a great relationship. I can tell you, we prefer to work with brokers that have been through the CCTG class because they have a solid foundation. So this is in no way a competition with them. We couldn't begin to compete with them. You're getting a week's worth of absolute hardcore training, that's very important to your base of the company that you're going to build. This is an addition to, is the commercial broker playbook.
So what's next for the commercial broker playbook? I know you launched it, I think, was it earlier this year or late last year? What's in store for it in 2023?
Yeah, so we launched it. We've been working on this for about 18 months, and we finally have it launched and going, and we're still figuring it out, trying to roll it out. The staff kept saying, well, we've got cost involved and all that. I said, okay, let's not worry about the cost right now. Let's give it away free for a while. So that's what we've tried to do, is just sign some brokers up and get them experience and let them see what it is and all that. We around Commercial Broker Playbook, we're doing a podcast called Deal Talk. And basically what that is we're just talking, Leah and I are just talking about one of the deals that we did early on in our company, and how we structured that deal, how we did that deal. And then now what we're trying to do is talk about fresh deals, a deal that we did last month or 2 months ago or whatever. So we want to give them real world experience of, these are the real deals that are out there, and these are how we did them. So Deal Talk's very important with Commercial Broker Playbook. And then in our thought process, and Rita, we're not sure yet, but we're just kind of mulling this over. A famous line in a movie says, we're just spitballing here, about possibly doing some advanced training, with a select group of brokers, where we bring them in, we walk them through our corporate offices, and then we have a 1 day or 2 day seminar, and we talk about the hard deals, and we talk about building lender relationships. We talk about the things that are really important to a broker that's already up and running. So that's kind of what I think the next step is. We're not for that person just getting into the business. That's what Commercial Capital Training Group's for. We're for that broker that's been in the business, that's, just maybe up against a wall a little bit and needs to push through. Because I remember that time in my career, in this industry, when I just had to push through, and fortunately I did. And our company is very successful for that.
Yeah, and I bet you would have loved to have a resource like this at the time,
Oh,
right?
I would have so loved it. And bless Mike Sneeden's heart. He was so patient with me, and he he always took my call. He never told me, Terry, that's not a deal I even need to look at. He was very good with me. But here's the thing I did with him. I realized how important his time was. So I didn't waste his time. And I did what I said I was going to do. If I said I was going to call him at 2 and we agreed on that, I called him at 2. So I knew he was a busy man. I knew his time was valuable, but as long as he was willing to give to me and pour into me, I wanted to make sure I was the good person, being a good receiver and receiving, what he was giving me. So I think as people, as brokers, we need to understand that if you do find a mentor that's willing to work with you, you have to respect their time and value their time. So I think Commercial Capital Training Group has their absolute need of bringing that new person in that wants to learn how to be a broker. I mean, that company changed my life, and forever. And so I'll always be grateful to those guys. So yeah, I'm on their bandwagon, but the Commercial Broker Playbook is another step above that. It's an advanced step. We're not working and talking to people that are in real estate sales wanting to become a commercial loan broker. That's not what we do. We're working with brokers that are already in business.
Just trying to up their game and really work on those deals
Right.
that are harder. Yeah.
Yeah, trying to go to the next level, trying to become an expert. I'm blessed that I'm passionate about what I do, so I get to come to work and have fun every day. Um, and I want to help those people that feel the same way. That's kind of where I'm at. But those people that want to go to the next level, that are not satisfied with where they are, that's the people that we want to work with.
That's great. You had mentioned that you have the podcast. Where can our listeners find that podcast?
Well,
Is that
it's Deal Talk on podcast. I should have had Leah get me the information, and I'll do that while we're sitting here. I'll ask her to send me how they can get to the podcast. But I know it should be under your just I guess I'm not really great with technology, but I understand you can click on podcast and you can search for it. It's
oh,
under
great.
Deal Talk.
So it's
Yeah,
probably if you have like an iPhone or an Android
right.
phone, like in the
Exactly.
yeah. Okay, great. That's easy. So in your opinion, why is it important to continue investing in your education and development as a broker?
Well, I mean, I think the obvious answer to that is, well, everything keeps changing, and it really does. The banking climate 90 days ago, the lending climate 90 days ago is so much different today than it was 90 days ago. And the lending climate at the end of the first quarter of next year is going to be so different than it is right now today. So if you're not training, if you're not educating yourself, if you're not evolving, then you're going to get left behind. I'll never forget this. I was a pretty young man in the automobile industry, and I had an older general manager that I'd gotten to know. I didn't work for him, but I'd gotten to know him. We were friends, and we were having lunch one day. And I asked him, I said, what do you think about this internet stuff? So you can imagine how old I am and how long ago that was. Um, and he said to me, it's a fad. It will pass. And he never dug in. He never understood it. And he got left behind. He lost his job, because he didn't embrace the technology, embrace the changes. And I think in our industry, you have to embrace the technology, embrace the changes, because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. And we see that in a lot of brokers that they're just not spending the time to educate themselves. How hard is it I mean, you have so many resources today. You can Google almost anything. YouTube has almost every topic in the world you can imagine. Now, is the information true? That's what you got to be careful of. But it's out there, and you can go look. And there's so many talented people in our industry. You guys have people that write articles in your book, in your magazine. Those people are experts in the industry. And what I know about those people, they all love to give back. They all want to see this community continue to grow, to continue to get great, to continue to have quality people servicing in that industry. So I think most of us, Chip Cummings is an example at North, I think it's North Avenue. He talks to people all the time and about our industry and giving back and things like that. So there's a lot of resources if people want to get better and grow, and you just have to take advantage of it. Because if you don't, you're going to be like that old GM in the car business that I knew that gets left behind because you don't understand the technology. You don't understand what's really going on in your industry.
Yeah, and nobody wants that. That would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Thinking the internet is a fad. Yeah, wow.
Mm.
That's
Tells you how old I am, doesn't it, Rita?
it does, yeah. But I remember when there was no internet, so I'm
Yeah.
coming up there with you. So
Yeah, exactly. So
so you already mentioned the podcast is a resource for brokers in 2023, and you mentioned, that brokers should be getting a good book of a good set of relationships with alternative lenders. Any other resources or advice that you have for brokers going into the new year?
and on Deal Talk, you can find it on Spotify and YouTube. So if they want to listen to Deal Talk, jump on Spotify, jump on YouTube, and you can find it there. I think for brokers, what I would say is continue to educate yourself. I go back to a time when I was in school at Commercial Capital Training Group, and I was holding on to this deal, and John was teaching our class and Chris was teaching our class, and both of them finally told me, hey, Terry, you need to let this deal go. And I just hung on there and hung on there and hung on there. And I finally did get a lender to do it, and got the borrower to agree to the terms. and it was going to be a massive commission. I started the company with Ken Collins. He was my partner, and he still does some work with us, even though he's kind of semi-retired now. But that commission for us was going to be about $900,000. So you can imagine, as a new company, what that's going to do, to that. I think where brokers get a little messed up, and I'm guilty. I did it. I'd get that term sheet, everybody committed. Now we're just waiting to close. I'm already mentally spending that money. And that's a bad thing, because what happened is 2 weeks before we closed, the IRS placed a $2.5 million lien on the client, and it killed our deal. Okay. So I think with brokers, you have to understand, deal's not done till the money's in the bank. Okay. And even though you think it's a deal and you think it's going to get done, you got to wait till it gets done, because anything can happen. We had a deal that we met with the client here just a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to do a bridge loan on a hotel for him. And he paid our due diligence fee. We have a $10,000 due diligence fee. He paid that. We gathered all the docs. We ordered the title work. We're just about ready to close. I'm about to leave and go do the site visit. And the broker calls and says, I can't get a hold of the client. I think he's got his loan done at a bank. And I'm like, okay, that's where the broker didn't have a good solid fee agreement in place with the client. And too many brokers today are not getting fee agreements with their clients. We don't do a deal with a client unless we have a fee agreement in place on the ACS side, on the commercial brokering side of the house. If we don't have a fee agreement in place, we don't do the deal, because it gives me the exclusive rights to hang that deal, to get it funded. Okay. It says that he's going to pay me no matter what, as long as I get it funded, I get paid. So I think it's important to have that. And the other thing it does is it builds that relationship. One of the longest relationships I have is with a gentleman that's been with me. We've been in business 9 years. He's been with me 8 of those 9 years. And Friday, he and I flew together out and looked at another deal, that I'm doing, that he wants to invest in. That's the kind of relationship we've built over those 8 years. Well, I've done over $100 million in loans for him. My commission from him, our first agreement with him, it was a fight. He didn't want to pay me 3%, and I finally said, Edward, you're going to pay me 3% or I ain't doing the deal. And so we settled on it. And now we have a master agreement in place. I get paid 1% of whatever I do for him, and he's actually an investor, in the BIDCO too now. So, I mean, you can build those long lasting relationships. But if I was a new broker coming into this year with the way the market is and all, I would want that fee agreement in place to know that my client is depending on me to get that funding. And then I'd go to work and get the funding. And we learned that the hard way. We tried to do some deals without them early on in our company. It didn't work, and it just frustrates everybody. It makes you mad and you feel like you get taken advantage of. So get that fee agreement in place. Have a real relationship with your client. I think that's important.
Definitely. That's such great advice. So we're coming close to the end of our time here. Any final thoughts?
It's a tough market right now for lending. It's going to be a tough market probably through May, this coming year. That's Terry's analysis. That's nothing special. It's just my analysis of where I think we are. I think the brokers that are going to be successful are the ones that are going to dig in, that they're going to build the relationships with the client. They're going to build the relationship with their lenders. That's an interesting thing. This morning coming into work, I'm on the phone with a lender before 8 o'clock talking through a deal. Okay. And she's a bank lender, and this bank's going to step up and do this deal for me. And I think that's important to know that it is a tough market. The strong are going to survive. The weak are going to go away. But if you're willing to push through and put the work in, when you get to the other side, it can just be an outstanding, part of your deal. I'll remember, and I'll expand a little bit, when PPP, when they shut everything down in the pandemic, okay, before they announced PPP, we're sitting around looking at each other. We had 6 deals, I believe it was, ready to close. Those deals all got put on hold. All the banks said, yeah, you got a commitment letter, but we're not closing. So, we had to find out what to do. We started getting phone calls from our clients that they needed help with this new PPP loan. So we started working with clients on that. We found 2 commercial banks, or, community banks, that needed our help in processing the PPPs because they didn't have the staff. And one of those community banks even had us do the forgiveness piece of it. So we sustained our company by doing 502 PPP loans. and the forgiveness on those. Okay. So we evolved. We didn't just fold our tents and send everybody home. We worked 18 straight days in one period. That was Saturday, Sunday, and everything. Okay. Just trying to keep up with the volume that we had. And there was only, at the time, there was only 8 of us, so you can imagine what we were doing. And we weren't automated like some of the big banks were, in the PPP. So I would say to be successful in 2023 in this market, you're going to have to evolve. You're going to have to be creative. We've made money as a company from moving deals from one bank to another bank. We moved $55 million worth of deals one year, and we made $250,000 in commissions, from those banks in doing that. You have to evolve. You have to be creative in tough markets. So that's what I would say is keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, listen more than you talk, and you'll make it through 2023.
That's great advice. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, Terry. It's been great. And that advice, evolve, adapt, and keep your ears and eyes open. Definitely important going into the new year. So thank you for sharing that with everyone.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for the vehicle that you guys are for our community.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay.